In this video today, I'm going to be showing you a sick way you can create an outline shader for your characters in Unreal Engine. Now, I've had a little look around and I can't find anywhere that's doing this quite like we're going to do it today. We're going to do it animated and it's going to be like glow in the dark. Now, I'm following the Unreal documentation on this, the Toon Outline Shader I think it's called. So I will link that in the description, you can follow that if you want, but there's an easy video tutorial that you can follow. Right, so the first thing we need to do is create a new project. It's going to be the third person template and just rename it whatever you want. Here is the documentation in the background, and the first thing we need to do is just go into your content browser by pressing Ctrl and space, right click and create a new material. This is the only material we're going to need in the entire project to make this work. So just rename it something like m_overlay. And one of the first things we need is we need to actually just change these default things here, the default details, right? Okay, so it's going to be surface, masked, and it's going to be unlit. The shading mode is going to be unlit. And then we need it two-sided. We're going to keep use material attributes unchecked. And then we need some nodes, okay? So, right, with materials, I'm not great at them, and I always get the nodes mixed up. So I found the best way to do it is just to right click and actually search for the node you want. But you can experiment and press like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and right click at the same time. But first thing we need is a parameter, and it's going to be a vector parameter. I'm going to rename this base color. So let's just delete that, and then we're just going to whack that into there, into the emissive color. And you'll notice that everything is like not highlighted, so we can't actually just plug something straight into base color. But we'll explain that later. Next, we need a two-sided node, and it's going to be two-sided sign. And we're going to do some maths and stuff like that. So we need a 1 minus, and also a multiply node. Feel free to pause the video at any time if you need to copy any of this. Next, we need a scalar, and we're just going to rename this outline intensity, and then plug that into B. Don't worry about the values, because we're going to be able to change this on the fly later. That multiply node is going to go into the opacity mask also. Okay, sweet. So now we've got that side up. Now that's all sorted, we need another. No, we don't. We need a vertex normal WS, and the WS stands for world space. And then we need another param. Yeah, I think we can just right click this and change it to a parameter. So I'm just going to change this to line width. And we're going to get a multiply node, plug it into B, and then plug the vertex normal world space into A. Lovely stuff. Now, we're not seeing a lot happening on the left hand side, but trust me, you'll see at the end of the video that it does look pretty sick. Okay, so next we're going to search for a text coord node, and then a multiply node. Just going to connect that into the A value, and then for the B value we're going to get a vector parameter, or we can just do it like this and convert it to a parameter, just like that. And we're going to call this scale X, and then we need to do some other stuff, so we need to duplicate it and then just go here, rename it, and change the X to Y. That's going to be our Y value. We're going to duplicate it once again, and we're going to change this one to speed X, and then once again we need a speed Y, so we're just going to change that just like that. So you should have 4 nodes just like that, 4 parameter nodes. And then next we need to append this, so we're going to go A to B, just like that. And the values 0.2, 0.2, and then 1 and 1, just like that. Like I said, don't worry about the values, we're going to change all this later. And you can change it to like your liking, make it look good in your game. Okay, so out of this, we're actually going to multiply it before we append it. And then press Q to align it all up. Then we're going to get a time node. Drag out of that and plug it into the B value. Let's add another multiply node here, and that's actually going to go into the B, and then the A is going to be the time node. So the time's going to go into the top B value and the bottom A value, and then let's just connect this append node up to the multiply, just like that. It should look just like this. If you need to pause it, just feel free to pause it or rewind, whatever. Okay, so out of the append, we're going to get a add node, and we're going to add A to B. Multiply is going to go with A, append B, just like that. And then we're going to get a texture sample node, and we will be adding this noise texture to this, but we're not going to do that yet. Okay, so out of the texture sample node, we're going to get a clamp, because we don't want these values to like be going all over the place. So we can just highlight everything and just drag all this over it just like this. Next, let's just disconnect this, and we're going to add the clamp into the A value of the outline intensity. And then we're going to duplicate the outline intensity and change this to erosion. And the value is going to be 1. So let's duplicate this multiply node, add it into the B value, and then the outline intensity is going to go into the clamp just like this. Out of the multiply node, we're going to get a subtract node, if I can actually find it. There it is. Line that up by pressing Q. And then out of this subtract node, we're going to search for multiply once again. And that's going to go into the A value of multiply, and the subtract is going to go into the B value. Plug this into the opacity mask, and now we get an error because we have not assigned any texture to the texture sample. Like I was saying before, this is where we're going to add the noise texture, and I'll show you how to get the noise texture because it doesn't show up when you try and find it originally. Okay, sweet. So let's have a look at here, and if we just click this drop down, I'm going to change it to linear color, and then search for wind, and you'll see nothing shows up. Search for noise, a couple of them show up, but it's not the ones we want. So let's just click this little settings settings cog here, and it should show up when we use the developer content and the engine content. I think that's looking pretty good. We now have no errors. So next we need to search for camera vector WS for world space and pixel normal world space as well. And out of the camera vector, we're going to get a dot node, connect that to an add node, and then out of that we're going to divide it. I know it's pretty confusing, but if you just follow along slowly you should be fine. And then for next we're going to get a power. There we go, just like that. Okay, next we need a parameter node, but we can just duplicate this one from up here, and that was the erosion node, and let's just rename this. There we go. And that's going to be our line strength. Let's duplicate it one more time, and then this is going to be line edge, and another time, and this is going to be line intensity. Sweet. So let's create all the stuff for these three values. So the strength is going to go into the power node. Then we need to subtract from the line edge node and plug that into the power node, just like that. Next we're going to multiply the line intensity and then plug that into the subtract node. I'm going to change these values. Just like that. You can use the same values as me if you want, or you can just experiment. Like I said, we can always change these later. So let's just highlight these, move this out of the way. And we need a couple more things. So let's just plug that into the subtract for now. Click apply. And still, we're not really seeing anything. And that doesn't mean you've made any mistakes. It just means that we need basically everything connected and all the nodes before we actually even see anything, to be honest. So I'm just checking all these nodes and making sure everything is correctly aligned and everything's plugged in. I know it's like a lot of stuff, so it's kind of hard to keep track of. So out of the 1 minus x, we're going to get a multiply, and then now we're going to plug this into the opacity mask from the multiply node, just like that. So now I want to show you what happens if you just apply this material. And if we just apply it here, as you can see, it literally just disappears. And that's because you've got to use it in the right way. And I will show you exactly what I mean in a minute. So here you can see I'm changing this line width and the outline intensity, etc. And now we can actually see something in the viewport. But as I keep saying, there's no point changing these values now because we're going to just change them later. And we're going to actually experiment once we're in game, because I feel like it's a little bit better when we actually have it on a character. Right, okay, so if we select this, I'll show you the proper way to apply this material. And just going to select this little cube. In fact, actually, you know what? We're going to import something else. We could import a sphere. Or maybe a character. Let's go for the UE4 mannequin. We're going to go to meshes. And drag in the SK mannequin. This is like the old one. Just so it's different to our one. And I can show you two different ways. Okay, so we're going to go into the details panel. And we're going to assign the ABP money to begin with. And then we're going to create a material instance of this. So then we've got two different... We can make two different colours. This is just so we don't mess up our original one. Okay, once we have our SK mannequin selected, we're going to go and search for overlay. And then in this overlay material, now we're going to actually use the material that we've just created. Just like that. Now, you might not be able to see anything yet, but let's reapply this because I think it actually messed up. And now, let's just change this value a little bit in here. Like that, the outline intensity. And now you can see we have this like outline, like a scribbled outline around our player. But it's still not working correctly, so let's just re-add it. I don't know why it keeps deleting itself. I'm going to add it to a couple of things in the viewport. So like, it's not just for characters, like you can just add it to basically anything in the map. And if we go into the base color, we can go here, just to make it a little bit more vibrant so we can actually see it. Like that. It's looking pretty sick. And if we go to the BP third person character, we can also do the exact same. So let's take our second one, and we're going to rename this one green. I'm going to duplicate and rename it green. And let's just change the colours in the details panel this time. So this is why we set everything up like we did before. Now we can change the values on the fly just from the details panel instead of actually going into the nodes and changing them that way. There we go. So I'm just going to mess with a couple of these values and I will show you kind of what everything does. Obviously if we just max out the erosion, then the lines will be like full thickness, and if we put it to like a really low value, it'll be more like a scribble effect. Obviously the line edge and the intensity is pretty self-explanatory. But if we lower this intensity, the slower that it will like regenerate. So I'm just going to find some values here that I like. There we go, a little bit slower and not so thick. That looks pretty cool to me. And then I want to add it to this character as well. So let's go back into our content folder and we're going to find our green one. I'm actually going to duplicate the green one because I've just changed the values. I'm just going to change it to red. So it's the same like animation style and then just red basically. Let's close out of that and select it just like that. And there we go. We have it on the other character as well. And you notice it is not applying to the character because, well, the character that we're using, and that's because we've assigned it to this this BP character, and it's not actually, it's only assigning it to the one in the viewport, so you can use it like instance based. Now if we go into the actual BP third person character into the blueprint and then change it like this, when we do click play, we will actually have on the character that we're controlling. So we can just delete that now, click play, and as you can see, there we go. And we can run around and we have that pretty cool animated outline. It looks pretty sick. and especially it looks pretty good at night. So I'm actually just gonna go through here, look for lighting, change the rotation of the sun, the directional light, just so we get a little bit of a better view, a bit more of like a glow in the dark kind of view. I think that should probably do it. And if we click play, as you can see, look how sick this looks now. Wow. Now I am pretty happy with that. So this video was more of a kind of like watch along more than a tutorial. I know I didn't really explain all the nodes and that too well because I'm still learning the materials, but I hope you enjoyed the video and I genuinely hope you learned something new. If you did, do me a favour, like the video, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and check out my third person animation stuff. I'll catch you later. Bye.